We had them over every Sunday at 10. When our house burned down years ago, we just asked if we could stay for a week. While I wait for the insurance to pay, asked my son-in-law to laugh, but he didn't. He said, "My daughter is running a shelter." Gave me a hotel flyer and I slept in our burnout car for 3 nights before I remember where the secret copy of the will was in my desk drawer. What did I make next? Hi, my name is Frank, and I'm Shashante Shu. I've never asked for much. I was a machine my whole life. Carol, a service tech, worked with my wife to work part-time in a school cafeteria until her knees gave out. We were careful. Saved. Our daughter Megan grew up in a Rivermont Avenue, has a small brick house in Lynchburg. Virginia, it wasn't something big or fancy, but it was our home for more than 10 years, held Sunday dinners every week Brad and Megan never missed. A single one helped us buy food. Did all the cooking and cleaned up their 2 girls would come over. Drive up to our house and sit down on our couch. Take what's on our plates and leave it there. Without moving, they always said thanks, and we thought that was enough. I thought they liked it, but I no longer believe that the fire happened on Thursday, October 17th, and it was as dry as hell. This week, an electrical spark happened in the I was making coffee in the laundry room when She then heard a strange buzzing pop. Yelled by the time I got the fire put out the fire, but it was too late. I grabbed Carol as it hit me hard and quickly, and pulled her out of the front room. We were in the yard and saw it go for 50 years, pics that were burned in less than an hour. My dad's recipes for the table built for us when we got married, all gone. They left, and we just sat there. Carol held my hand and cried as we stood on the curb. I was only left with silence. The Red Cross gave us a place to stay that night. To sleep in a nearby shelter, fold out CS no. I had to keep Carol's privacy as a cold soup. Stay in there again. Her back hurt and was swollen, so I called Megan the next morning. Megan, honey, we only need a few days a week until the insurance check goes through, and she had a long pause, and then Brad's voice. Frank, I don't think that's going to work. To work? I wasn't sure what I meant. Megan has work and plays sports. I work from home, and we're already overloaded. You think I want this? I asked in a loud voice. That's right, we fed you every week for 10 years. We watched your kids. When you want to go on dates, I taught your oldest. Megan said, I'm sorry, I forgot how to ride a bike. At last, she didn't sound sorry, seemed scared. It's not a good time. I got a text message with a picture of a damn hotel flyer as a $49 a night motel on the side of the road without a website, Wi-Fi, or safety. I'm willing to help pay for it. Looked at the screen and felt something inside me snap. I knew we couldn't pay for a hotel. Our money was stuck in insurance, told me it would take at least 3 weeks. We slept in our Buick, which was parked behind us. What was left of our house, it had a burnt plastic smell, so I made a make-a-pillow out of some old towels in. The Carol cried herself to sleep in the trunk. The first night she did, but the second night she didn't. I could not talk at. All by the 3rd night, I finally gave up and woke up. My back hurt before dawn, split in half, and that's when Do you remember the drawer where I had a desk? The old wooden desk in the back room is from the 1970s. There was a fake in the bottom box. Sheet I made years ago and kept a few of things that are secret, and old letters are in there. The will of my uncle and pictures of I didn't have the land. Titles he left me. I told Carol to wait because I hadn't touched it in years. In the car and went up what used to be our living room, the floor squeaked. Smoke marks were on the ground under my feet. I found the box under a stack of burned ceiling tiles, and it was still. So, the fireproof folder was shut up tight. Open it right there in the ashes. Will the deed my name 3 plots of 1 piece of land in Amherst County was in bad shape. The other 2 were wooded and not used for shooting. Not useful at the time, but 2 weeks ago a friend of mine who works in city planning office told me something about the land been rezoned, and a construction company no one knew the place yet. But it was about to go up in value. But Brad didn't know any of this. He always thought I did. He treated me like I was broke because was an old, worn-out thing like we were. They are just two burdens waiting to die. I told the developer he was wrong. I told him I wasn't interested the next day, not ready to sell yet, but I wanted to know what they would say they had been enough to go as high as $480,000 for all 3 plots. I almost bought them. I hung up the phone and thanked them. I hung up because I had a very clear plan for myself. Plan just for me. 3 days later, I walked into a small diner in the middle of Lynchburg and asked to talk to the newspaper's editor. I told him I had a story for the town newspaper. For people in this town to hear, he heard me and asked for proof, which I gave him. He pictures of us having Sunday dinners. I showed him the flyer for the motel my daughter made, sent me, and I told him everything. He asked if I was sure I wanted to go public. They said yes, and that was the start of it. Dennis was the name of the editor about my age, grew up here like I did. I showed him pics of Megan and Brad on my phone at their kids. On our swing set, Carol Megan with a Christmas pie. There were more than 100 made on Sunday. I kept every picture from dinner that night. I showed him the motel ad Megan sent me. He looked at for a long time. You say, your only child, your daughter, turned you after a house fire? He asked 3. We slept in a car some nights. I told you I would. Everything I could to never once I've asked for help up until now, and now they are done acting like they are good people. Dennis put out the story and called it local. A couple whose home had caught fire was turned away by own daughter. It was on the Tuesday page. They used a picture of me on A1 full color, and Carol from Christmas Before held a ham in front of our tree and was happy, like stupid people who still believed in family. Within 2 days, the story got around. Someone on radio station 13 read it on the air. A part where people began to talk at the I Got Groceries at the post office. I was stopped in a Walgreens by a woman I knew. She gave me a hug and told me she daughter did the same thing a long time ago. Jane was her name, and we cried in the butt. It was the part that really made a fuss. The next weekend, I paid a graphic artist to make for me a big sign with black letters. On a white wall, I got the background just right, simple and clear. To what was left of our burned-out house, we fed our daughter and her husband every Sunday for 10 years. Then our house burned down. They gave us a flyer for a motel. I put up a flyer below it that people started showing up and sharing pictures of it. On the internet, a preacher left flowers on the teenagers from the area sit on the front porch steps. Helped me rake the yard, but Megan and Brad were quiet at first. The text message began, "Dad, what the hell? Are you going to take down the sign?" Making us look bad. I didn't answer. Brad called me, and his voice was rough. "You need to take that sign quickly. Put that down right now. You're making your..." I told my family, "You made it clear." I no longer had one. Then I hung up. He called back 6 times, but I didn't answer. Answer once. The next twist came a week later. After a while, a real estate agent, not Brad, but another person, called about the land, and he told Amherst County that the builder they raised their price and were now ready to pay $570,000 if I agreed within 48 hours. I told him I would think about it, and then when Megan picked up the phone, I told her, "I only know one thing about you. Don't, or you'll feel it soon." She stopped talking and hung up for a few hours. After that, I got a visit from Brad. The hotel we were finally able to check into, he didn't knock. He just walked up. To the door while I was sitting outside, he still had smoke on his jacket when he got there. "As possible to look like a big deal, we need to talk," he said at the end of everything. I leaned back and looked at him, she said. He sat down and said, "Now you want to talk." Next to me like we were equals. "It's bad for your kid that you're a good name. She did that herself." I laughed like I was the one being. "It's not fair that she's stressed out. She didn't know what to do with the girl's work. Did she know how to text a motel flyer?" Brad leaned in close and said, "I know about I know the land is worth something if you may decide to let Megan handle it. Don't forget that she doesn't need trouble. With her name, it might be better. If we don't say anything, that's when I saw that he thought I had already made plans to give her everything he didn't have. I thought I had changed my mind 2 days ago, but thought the land was going somewhere someone else didn't know. I had one more surprise. Getting payback wasn't just about what the money was all about. Show everyone that being kind isn't. Not being strong doesn't mean being weak. That forgotten doesn't mean gone. And I wasn't done yet, not even close. Brad went to the hotel and tried to. He used smooth talk to get along with me. I knew I scared them, but not because of what I said, but not what I did say they were thinking now, and they were wrong about what they didn't know. I'd done this 3 days before that meeting. I had already changed my mind and walked into the estate lawyer's office, and I told him I wanted everything in town. Done quickly, and I brought copies of the deeds, the offer letter from the company, and a file with proof that Megan and Brad are together hadn't helped us after the fire. Asked me, "Are you sure you want to break up with your daughter?" "I'm not cutting her out at all," I told her. "She cut herself out. I'm just taking care of the papers instead of Megan. Someone else got the heir. Her name is Angie. Angie works at the diner next to my house, old spot where she used to bring hot food. My wife, when Carol broke her hip 3 years ago, she never asked for anything in. When she got back, she'd leave casseroles in our. She took our mail when she thought we weren't home. She heard about the fire and went to the same week with 2 bags of food, and she was willing to help us get a sleeping bag. I think she has to clean up the lot. A 10-year-old kid, and is taking care of him on her own. Husband died at work. She doesn't have an accident 3 years ago. A lot. But she gives more than people who I let her handle everything. Because she had everything. Land, time, and her boy. For all time, pay me back all the rights I told my lawyer I had, to keep Megan from seeing a single one. Then there was the church benefit. A Forest's small Baptist church had seen the pastor read the news story that got. They went outside and asked if they could do something. I told him we didn't need the money. They still wanted to help. The next on Sunday, there was a potluck. To help the couple get money with Sunday meals, and a house that burned down nearby artist had over 200 people show up. Gave a painting to. A former firefighter gave up his prize knife set. Cried when they hugged us, but Carol hadn't not smiled in weeks. But that day she did. That afternoon, a man in a suit approached me and said he worked for something else he had heard about through. I own those 3 lots in. He made an offer of $600,000 on the spot. No time to waste. I told them to think about it that night. Angie, I asked her and her son to join me. I took her out to the land and showed her it was an old hunting house that was falling apart, but it was safe to walk on the roof. Woods with him, she said it was the first. It had been 5 years since she had felt at peace. Gave her the business card of the developer. I told him to call me if they ever wanted to sell. You don't have to, though. They looked at me like I was crazy. No one has ever given me something like this before. I told her before. She said, "You earned it." In the meantime, Megan began to show up, where she thought I might be first. At first the food store, then the post office one day. She showed up by accident, sitting at the diner while I ate. She pretended nothing happened. "Hey, dear Dad, how are you?" I would smile and walk on. Then she became desperate and I went to the hotel and knocked on the door. Megan pushed past her as she opened it and stood there like she still belonged there. "Dad, we need to talk," she said. She said as she sat on the edge of the bed and turned away. She hadn't talked to Megan. I got up after the fire and Megan told her, "No, you need to listen." She crossed her arms and said, "You're acting like we didn't mean to kick you out. It was just a hard time every time we fed. You fixing your pipes with your kids, you gas money. That was during our tough. A lot of times we never gave her reasons. She didn't. I replied that I had changed the will." She looked at him and said, "You're not in it anymore." Dropped. "Are you sure I gave it to someone who was there for you like family?" She began to cry, so that was it. You're not giving us anything. No, you already did that. I'm just... When she finally caught up, she left in tears. Brad called me after an hour and left a voicemail. You'll feel bad about this. Getting angry with your family over a by mistake, I deleted it without. It wasn't a good idea to skip to the end. Not understanding, it was clear. And I was just beginning. A month went by. Our hotel room began to smell bad. To feel like a jail, the walls where I thought the rugs smelled like mildew. Carol wasn't able to cross the parking lot. A lot without holding my arm. We still hadn't heard anything from the town, kept the insurance company being there for us. People we barely knew brought the one man who offered to rebuild our front step from the wreckage he could remember sitting on them as a kid waiting for his dad to finish. We need water work done in our house, Carol cried again, but this time it was the kind of crying that leaves you empty, the kind that makes you feel full again. I got a call from Angie at the school fundraiser. The night before they're likely to sell, there are funding spots for the new gym at school. She said that people who give the most get plaques. You should come by just to look at the wall. Brad, I knew this was going to end badly, was on the school board. Taking pride in putting on the McInnes the wall for months, the gym had 12. That night, I drove to Sponsored Spots the school in a button-up shirt. That she stole shaved, and with a check in my pocket, I put money in the front pocket until Brad, and when Megan showed up, everyone was happy. They're shaking hands like they own the place. Megan wore one of those tight white dresses, coats that made her look like she was having to run for something when the auction Brad kept putting up the bids. 500 he was trying to get 1,000 here, and there. The first spot, when the seller got to the top spot in the middle of over, I put up my hand 10,000 times. The room was very quiet, and Brad turned around. I walked away when his face changed, went up and gave the seller the check. Right, in memory of, on the plaque, those who show up when family doesn't. As people cheered, Brad stood still and stared. Megan wouldn't look at me from the floor. After a few weeks, Carol and I finally not enough money from the insurance to don't redo the whole house after the fire. The tester saw too many structural. There were risks, and we got paid, but not enough to start over on that lot. But I already called because I had something else in mind. Aggie, and asked her boys if they still liked. She said yes. So I bought a prefabricated 2-bedroom cabin, was put in place on the forest next to the old shooting ground brand new siding. On the cabin solar panels, a small deck with a swing. I called the town zoning office and had it signed up under Angie's name, and I didn't tell her until it was over, boys. She cried when she saw it because her son had run away. Around and around on the deck I gave her the keys and told her, you don't owe me anything. But if you ever make Sunday, save me a plate for dinner. It could have been the end, but fate doesn't go away. On time, 2 months later, Brad got he was fired because he had been pushing a shady deal on some land behind the school board's back. Someone told them about him after the reports say it was the night of the auction, another board member who didn't like how cocky Brad showed up to act that night. Not long, Megan tried to start a parenting blog, but people in town remembered the comments part of a newspaper story. She shut it down because it had become a mess. In less than a week, they looked bad. And then friend after friend, neighbor after neighbor, stopped taking their calls. Not even their kids at school were told to be quiet. Didn't do anything, I didn't ask for any of it. But Carol and I were there. Moved into a small apartment on the edge of town. It's owned by a church woman, gave us a deal and told us it was an honor to have us there. She even put carnations in the ground, on the front, because she knew Carol had missed hers. We still eat dinner every Sunday, with someone or Angie, occasionally with Janine from Walgreens most of the time, with church families, real people who don't hand. Give out hotel flyers if you lose. Everything. I saw Megan for the last time, it was at the gas stop close to town. She was standing at pump 3. Looked at the car while it filled up. I saw her as I went inside. She looked older and tired, like thought the person she was after had already slipped out of her hands. Dad? I looked at her and said softly, she tried to. How are you? she asked with a smile. I didn't answer. Right away, all I did was nod. How are you? Well, she said in a whisper, didn't answer. Because what? What would you tell someone who had a place at your table every Sunday for 10 years, then let you sleep in a car that was on fire? I went inside, bought a drink, and then walked back out and kept going, and that was the end of it. Not with a fight or a scream, but with nothing but silence and a stronger peace that you earn by being angry kind that you build board by board after the